strangers! Welcome back to Pam's Shenanigans. I'm here to talk about the books that I've read for the month of May, and it's been an okay month for me for May. Warning though, if you're hearing something, it may be the fan that is beside me. It's really hot here in the Philippines, like super hot. And this is a video debut of my new hair. My mom cut my hair. She relented to our requests to cut her hair this short. This is the shortest hair that I've had, and I love it. It's so freeing. Whenever I take a bath, it's just one tabo. So if you don't know what tabo is, I'm gonna put a picture of that here. One tabo is enough to like wet my whole head, and I'm like, this is so freeing. It's so fresh, especially now that it's super hot here in the Philippines. So anyway, crying dogs out there. This is not a Pam video without the barking outside, so I present that to you. I feel like I want to be quick with this kinds of videos, but I tend to blabber a lot, so please bear with me. So this video would be my wrap-up for May, plus the books that I read for the Armydathon, which is a BTS-inspired readathon, and it's for the whole month of May, and the Asian Readathon, which is the annual readathon specifically for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So to start, the first book I read, which is for the sole prompt, which is to read a book that is set in your home country. So my home country is the Philippines, and this also tackles the Asian Readathon month for reading a book by an Asian author that isn't US-centric. So it's Si Jano Silang at ang Labanang Manananggal Mambabarang by Edgar Calabia Samar. This is the second book in the Jano Silang series, and I give this 4 stars. Super nagustuhan ko yung first book. Kaya nga, binili ko yung books 2 to 3 sa Shopee agad kasi sobrang nagandahan ako sa first book. Hindi din naman ako na-disappoint nung book 2, pero siguro yung hindi ko lang din nagustuhan, which is same naman yung comment ko with book 1, which is yung mas pinasobra pa yung info dump dito sa book 2. And parang wala din, hindi ko sure pero parang walang masyadong nangyari sa book 2. Kung ikukumpara siya sa book 1, which understandably is because first book siya, so it's setting up the whole series. Pero, I don't know, sa book 2 parang walang masyadong nangyari, more of heavy info dump yung nangyari, and hindi ko masyadong naramdaman yung bigat ng mga pangyayari hanggang sa makarating na sa last 3 chapters ng libro. So, mas nagustuhan ko yung book 1, pero nagustuhan ko din naman itong book 2 enough for me to continue reading the rest of the series. So, meron pa ako ng book 3 and 4 bago lumabas yung book 5. The next book is for the Armydathon prompt Borahe, which is to read a book that has at least 50% purple on the cover, and that is Mirage by Sumaya Daoud. I gave this book 4 stars, and I listened to the audiobook as well, and it's fantastic. This is a Moroccan-inspired space fantasy novel. It has very lush world building, and you just know that there has been a lot of historical research that has been put into this book about the class systems, the family affiliations. Also, a lot went into the choices of the names of the people and the cities as well. So some of them are inspired by real places. I loved the details on the heavy Moroccan heritage inspiration in terms of the family dynamics, the culture, the tradition, how poetry is the language of literature for them, and as well as the tribal and clan formations and how it's always tied up to familial ties. It was so interesting to see how heavy the family dynamics is in this novel, that when they say it's family, it's not just your direct family, you know, your mother, your father, your siblings, but it represents the whole clan or the whole tribe, and I think that's super interesting. Another thing I liked about this book is it's female-driven character development, and it shows the systems of power that women can engage and inject themselves. It has a very slow pace, and it's focused on Amani, the main character, and how she was unfortunately forced into injecting herself in the imperial city. She was kidnapped, and because she looks exactly like the princess in the imperial city, and they're gonna use her for some things. Okay, so their romance did make me smile in the right moments here, but I wasn't enthused or excited by the romance itself. I feel like I would recommend this to readers who are into character-driven and culturally coded fantasy books. The next book I read is The Obsession by Jessie Sutanto, and it's for the prompt Begin, which is to read a debut book by an Asian author, and Shadow, which is to read a scary book, whether that's a thriller, mystery, horror, or any book that will give you a scare. And this also fits my Asian Readathon prompt, which is to read a book by an Asian author in your favorite genre, and thriller is one of my favorite genres out there. So, The Obsession by Jessie Sutanto, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I listened to the audiobook as well. It was really good. What is it about though? It's a boy that immediately falls in love with a girl he just saw when he got back on campus months after his first love died. So he says it was true love at first sight, but really it was an obsession. So one day the boy discovers that the girl of his dreams has killed her abusive stepfather. So this is my first Jessie Sutanto book, and I wasn't disappointed at all. The writing is great. It was fast-paced, yet still managed to bring out the different layers to the characters. The plot may be predictable to some though, but I really enjoyed the ride anyway. It's one of those books that could be predictable, but you're still gonna enjoy it so much. It was fast-paced, which made me more interested to read and find out how it all ends. It could also be unpredictable in a sense that there were so many routes and directions that the book could have gone to. This is also the kind of book, the thriller book, that you won't like almost anyone except for one sensible best friend, and that's it. Anyone else, I'm fucking annoyed. Another thing I liked about it is the depiction of obsession, which was great and nuanced. Jessie Sutanto easily switched into different POVs, and they're still distinguishable. It's nuanced in a way that the character was aware of his unhealthy fantasy and obsession, but he can't seem to give it all up anyway. Another thing is I also like the theme of breaking away from abusive, controlling, and manipulative relationships and people, and that's tackled very heavily in this book. Another quote that I shared on Twitter, and it's a quote that I can't seem to get out of my head, and it's that one line where the abusive stepfather was joking and he was the police. He says, "You know what they call it when an officer kills someone by accident? A paid vacation." Wow. Reflective. Socially relevant. Haha. It's still stuck in my head, and I'm like, wow. Beware of the trigger warnings though, because there's a lot for this book, and I have them down there, so please tread carefully with this book. Kindly read the trigger warnings and content warnings first. Okay, on to our next book, which is Harmless Like You, Rowan Hisayo Buchanan, and this is for the prompt Mama and Begin. So with Mama, it's for me to read a book about a mother or about anyone who plays the role of a mother, grandmother, single parent, etc. I give this book 4 stars. It's such a complex and honest story about a mother and a son who are both grappling with their harrowing pasts and their not so great presents. There's a mother who abandoned her son and the son who is struggling to be a father. So this book has so many layers to it. It was told in 2 perspectives, so the mother, who is Yuki, and the son, Jay. The story also plays around the past as early as the 1960s and the present, which is the year 2016. So the mother, when she stayed in the United States and her parents went back to Japan, she was just struggling to belong somewhere, and in her pursuit of belongingness, is that a word? Please tell me belongingness is a word. Anyway, if it is, hooray. She found herself settling for less than what she deserves. One, a shitty friend, a relationship with a physically abusive man, old enough to be her uncle, and a job that she didn't want. It also dives into how it's not always easy to break free from a problematic and abusive situation. Jay, the son, obviously has abandonment issues because of his mom, Yuki, which kind of resulted in him being at arm's length to his own daughter, to the point that he was contemplating about leaving his daughter and what. There's a warning about this though, because Yuki, when she was 18 years old, she was in a relationship with a 30+ abusive man. So yeah, that's pretty worrying. And overall, I recommend this book if you're looking for a contemporary novel that tackles getting over your past and being able to accept who you are, forgiveness, then this is the book for you. The writing is great. It's super evocative and haunting. I also love how each chapter starts with a definition of different colors, because I think because Yuki is a struggling artist, she really loves art and how she's trying to find the right medium for her, whether that's painting, photography, drawing. And again, the chapter starts with definition of different colors. So a sample is the year wherein the chapter is set. For example, 1975, Caput, how was this pronounced again? Caput Mortum? Caput Mortum? Caput Mortum. Please assume that that's how it's properly pronounced. Caput Mortum, a purple brown, literally dead head, named for the color of dried blood, but it does well for the painting of old fruit and fading bruises. The name may also refer to worthless remains. 1982, vermilion, in medieval times made with mercury and sulfur. Why were the brightest paints always poisons? So it's this kind of things that I find very evocative, because like it's somehow connected to the chapter that it's preceding. So yeah, it's a great book. I loved it. Next book I read is a short story by Oyinkan Braithwaite, and it's Treasure. I picked this book up because I loved Oyinkan's other book, which is My Sister the Serial Killer. I love that book so much, and I also love this book. I gave this book 4 stars. Treasure is a short story that offers great commentary on the obsession when it comes to preserving one's social media presence and image, as well as the class divide, which is a dreadful reality that the characters were facing in Lagos. What I like about Oyinkan's writing is that it's very straightforward, but it's gripping and it's perfect for dark and morbidly satirical stories like this one and My Sister the Serial Killer. The audiobook narration though, it's so good. It's so fucking good. It's hands down amazing. The acting and the authenticity of the accent and inflections done by the narrator, who is Adepero Oduye. It made for such a fantastic reading experience, and it made me want to explore more of the story, and I kind of wish that it was a full-length novel as well. Worth noting though, Treasure is part of the short story collection called Hush, that dabbles in the consequences, often deadly, of obsession and deception. Okay, another short story I read is The Contractors by Lisa Ko. I gave this book 4 stars, and it tells the story of the social and class disparity between 2 Filipino employees of the same name, which is Sandra, and they are both employed under the same international company. One of them, Sandra, is working in the Philippines for the same company, and Sandra is in the United States office, still Sandra. They are both content moderators for a mega social media website, and as content moderators, they have to watch disturbing, disgusting videos and categorize and flag them. I love how it tackled the privilege that the US Sandra experiences, that the PH Sandra assumes that US Sandra has better, which is that she has higher pay and no quotas at work, unlike PH Sandra, wherein they have to hit a certain quota for the amount of videos that they are flagging and watching. The short story was able to show how both Sandras are dealing with the same challenges, but just different perspectives and backgrounds. It also dabbles on corporate misogyny, as the story shows how men are put in higher positions while the women were placed on higher pedestals, but with lesser benefits and opportunities for growth. Again, worth noting, The Contractors is part of the Out of Line short story collection that features funny, empowering, and enraging stories about strong women. Another note, the audiobook is narrated by Lea Salonga. Next book, it's called You Died, an anthology of the afterlife, edited by Kel McDonald and along with other contributors and artists. So I gave this anthology 4 stars. I got this as an e-arc from NetGalley. So You Died is part of this death positivity movement that helps mourning people have an open discussion and dialogue and outlook towards death and the afterlife. So there was also a foreword from Caitlin Doughty, she's the author of Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and she is also a mortician. This is an amazing collection that portrays death as not a fully negative thing that happens in our lives. While the goal of the creators of this anthology was to shed a different light on the perception of death, it doesn't invalidate the pain and the heartache that it brings to people. This anthology just shows how death is a natural part of life, and it isn't something that should always be feared. Another favorite part of mine about this book is the myths, the folk tales, the cultural expressions, and the traditions that were highlighted before each story. One that stood out to me was, of course, the one about the Philippines, where every year during All Souls Day, families would gather around with their loved ones, and they would be on their dead loved one's grave, and they would commemorate that person's life by sharing stories over food. The art styles per story were also very unique, and they were strong and amazing on their own little ways. A lot of stories that are poetic and lyrical, which made for a great reading experience for me. Next book I read is The Star-Touched Queen by Roshni Chokshi. It's for the prompt Sweet Night, which is to read a book with a moon or a star on the cover or on the title. It also has my Asian Readathon prompt, reading a book featuring an Asian protagonist. I have very mixed feelings about this book though. This is my first Roshni Chokshi, although I still want to read The Gilded Wolves by the same author. This just didn't hit the spot for me. I give this book 3.5 stars. I super loved the Indian representation and the super lush world building and writing. It's so hard to pinpoint what things I didn't like about this book, but I love the writing though. The writing was amazing. It's making me want to read more Roshni Chokshi books, but I think this was just generally underwhelming for me. Like, I don't know if I would still continue reading the series, because I think there's a second book to this series, and I don't know, I'm just generally underwhelmed. So yeah, for my next book, it's When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon, and it's for the prompt Serendipity, which is to read a romance book. And it also hits my Asian Readathon prompt, read a book by an Asian author. I gave this book 2 stars. It's one of the most beloved book in the community, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. It's just such a pain to read for me. Although I absolutely loved how it tackled how main character Dimple wants to dominate the tech world by being a coder, and another main character, Rishi, who is trying to be practical with his career choice, but internally he just wants to pursue art and become an artist. However, this book was just so painfully cheesy for me, and I found most of the characters so fucking annoying. Like, almost all of them. I'm so annoyed at them. I wanted to like this book so bad because I was looking for a lighthearted romance, and this just, again, didn't hit the spot, but it was fun at times, so there's that. So, another book that I read is Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and it's for... Sino nga kumanta nito? Like a Rose? You treat me like a rose. You treat me like a rose. Give me air so I can breathe. Okay, I need to film. So the next book I read is Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and it's for the prompt read a book that has the word me, myself, my or I in the title. And I've been meaning to read this book, and it's a non-fiction book by an Asian author, which hits my Asian Readathon prompt. And it's so hard to gather my thoughts about this book, except to say that it's fucking perfect, it's amazing, it's heart-wrenching, it's heartbreaking, it's tear-inducing, it's relatable, at least for me, and for survivors out there. It's so good. It's perfect. I feel like if I wanted to make a perfect, just this perfect review for this book, I might just tell you about the whole book and read to you every highlight that I have, because it's just so amazing. It's such a fantastic memoir, and it's one of my favorite nonfiction and one of my favorite memoirs out there. It's just amazing. One of my favorite lines from the book, which is also in the beginning, when Chanel Miller introduces herself, and it's, in not naming them, I finally name myself. My name is Chanel. I am not Brock Turner's victim. And it's just, it perfectly encapsulates how good the book is. And Chanel doesn't want to be defined as Brock Turner's victim, but she is a survivor of a sexual assault, almost rape situation. And it tackles how the justice system failed her and how privilege works in America. It unpacks so much, and it's just gonna evoke so much feelings from you, and you're gonna want to hug Chanel Miller, and you're gonna want to punch someone whose name starts with the letter B and ends with K, aka Brock Turner. It's just so unfair. Everything that happened to her, it shouldn't have happened to her, and with the way that the justice system handled her case, it was so unfair. Wow, she's just a fantastic writer. I hope she writes more books in the future. As for you, you have to pick this book up. It's a must read. It's a must read. If I can give this book 100 stars, I would. It's just so fucking good. Okay. Hello, friends and strangers. I forgot one book in my wrap-up, and it's The Project by Courtney Summers. I listened to the audiobook. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It was one of my most anticipated thrillers of the year, but I think it may have been wrong to expect so much from this book and compare it to the success of Sadie, which is an amazing book. And I don't know, I'm just giving it 3 stars because of the gripping writing style, and Courtney Summers is an amazing writer, but everything else, the whole mystery of it all, the characters, the plot, were all lackluster for me. So yeah, that's it. I just dropped by as an editor of the video. I'm currently editing the video, but I forgot to include the project. So yeah, I think that's it for my whole May Armydathon and Asian Readathon wrap up. I read a total of 11 books, and I hope you liked this video. If you did, smash that like button below, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Again, it motivates me, and it's not that I love numbers, but it's something that can't be avoided. Like, it's not defining me, but it's something that motivates me. So if you haven't yet, you can subscribe below. If you've read some of these books, we can talk down below, or you can connect with me on the different social media platforms that I have on my description box. And let me know what you read for the Asian Readathon and the Armydathon, or May in general, and how your reading month was. I will see you again next time, friends and strangers, on my next video. Bye bye.